Hello and welcome to the Stronghold podcast. We are fiddling with some new technology today. I have a very brand new mic right in front of my face. I don't know if you can see it. It's not falling apart anymore. Jake has a brand new mic in front of his face. Jake, let the beautiful people see it.
He's a very nice microphone, I have to say. We got a very good deal, so he's cool.
Well, hopefully the audio quality is better. You know, it's one of those things that's easier to watch a podcast. Like if you watch it on YouTube, the audio isn't quite as bothersome. Right, like because you can read the lips and what you can see it, which kind of takes away from the quality of what you're listening to in your ears. But I've had some complaints about the quality of the audio itself, and I figure if anybody's listening to this on a train or something like that, moving around, if you don't have any visual stimulus, the shit quality of the audio really stands out. So we have updated. We have fucking stage lights now. We got new mics.
You're wearing headphones?
I'm wearing headphones.
Sound should be good.
So we're trying to upgrade this thing. We can even play audio now into the laptop, which you will hopefully hear in your headphones as well. And before, if we'd play video or audio or something like it wasn't able to go in. But we've got a new machine, so hopefully, if we play some kind of video on the YouTube channel or something like that, while you guys are listening, you actually get the audio. So we're both pumped. I'm wearing my Khabib If Sambo Was Easy It'd Be Called Jiu-Jitsu shirt, and we're feeling pumped up. You know what's weird, Jake? One of the first things I want to start talking about today was Sambo. You haven't been since we started training the Sambo, right?
No, so Sid's getting ready for a contest, so you've been getting him ready, but I then wrecked my ankle thinking it was 20, so I've not been.
Yeah, so there's a Sambo competition coming up, and it actually is in 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. And it's quite interesting, man, because I'd never trained a student for Sambo before, so I didn't know exactly what the rules were. So I Googled them, and then I put a couple of messages on some threads and stuff like that to try to figure out the nuance, right? I looked at the rules, but the nuance was lost on me because I've never done it before. And it's quite interesting. Hey, it's like a combination of Judo and BJJ, but you're not allowed to choke. Right, but you are allowed to do arm locks and leg locks, and not only that, you're allowed to do bicep slicers and calf slicers. You're allowed to do hip spladles and hip pulls, and basically all the painful, horrible submissions are totally illegal, and then like the efficient ones that are quick and painless are illegal.
Not allowed. I'm very surprised chokes are not allowed in it because Khabib's known for choking people, and that's his background.
Well, I should distinguish combat sambo from sport sambo.
Okay.
Right, combat sambo is basically like amateur MMA. Right, they wear the gloves, they wear the MMA gloves. They can kick each other, they can punch each other, then they can choke each other as well. So those rules are quite different. But this is sport sambo and not combat sambo. And I mean, like when you're competing, the rule set really matters.
Yeah.
Right, depending on what the rules are, will totally change the game. And first of all, when you can't choke, it changes everything, because the whole game of like taking someone's back changes, right? I'm not necessarily trying to like take your back to choke you. Instead, I'm trying to pin you. I'm trying to hold you down. So it's a combination in that sense of like wrestling and judo, and then there's a few submissions that you're allowed to do as well. And so basically, if you shoot in, you don't have to worry about getting guillotined. You can turn your back and you're not have to worry about getting choked as much. But there's things that they do like the calf slicers, and they'll fly quickly into arm bars. Also, you're not allowed to close your guard. So, like, because you're pinning, right? Because the objective is to pin your partner, to pin their shoulders down. And so the rules are quite weird, hey? So, but I found it interesting because the rule says you're not allowed to close guard, like half guard, close guard, because it creates stalling. Yeah. Which at first made sense to me. But then I posted on Reddit, on our Sambo, to try to find out the nuance of the rules on the bottom. So I was like, okay, you can't play guard, so what's the rule? Or what's the goal, right? Yeah. And everybody that responded to me basically just told me, oh, the goal is just to turtle up and stall until they stand you back up. So I was like, wait, you're not allowed to close the guard, not allowed to close the half guard,
but
because it's
stalling. Turtle's fine.
And not only that, but I spoke to Tim, our judo coach, who's a Sambo champion in Singapore, and he was like, oh yeah, they only give you about 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and then they stand you up. I'm like, Jesus, so you only have to stall for like 2 or 3 seconds and they stand you up? So it got me thinking a couple of things, right? The first one is the limitations of every martial art in isolation, right? It was like, if you're doing BJJ and you're not throwing strikes, that's a game changer. If you're doing like sport sambo and there's no chokes, it changes everything. Like, it just and part of that's cool because it creates specificity for one style of training and makes some moves very, very good. Judo, right? You're not allowed to shoot in the legs, right? Greco-Roman, you're not allowed to shoot in the legs. Like freestyle wrestling, You're not trying to stand up from the bottom. You're trying to flatten out. All these little nuances really, really change the style, and you really start to see how limited certain martial arts are, like in pure isolation, right? In the gi, you're not allowed to heel hook. Okay, well then that changes a lot of the leg entanglements that you be put into, right? It's quite interesting to think about.
Yeah, I've never I've seen some combat sambo, but I've never seen pure sambo. I actually didn't know there's a difference between the two. I thought it was just all mad Russian stuff where they tried murdering each other.
Well, and this got me thinking on another subject, right? And I don't know if any of the listeners actually know this. I'm sure there's almost everybody that's listening to this is a martial arts practitioner, but many of them may not actually know the history and the interconnected history between judo, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, sambo. And it's quite fascinating, actually. I'm a little bit of a martial arts historian. I don't go like balls deep in it or anything. But are you familiar with the connection?
Didn't sambo come about because Russia had a war with, I think, Japan, and then their troops got absolutely like mullered in one-on-one combat, and they were like, "Oh, we need to do something about this." Or is that complete bullshit?
Well, there's some truth into that, and the actual story is even crazier, right? So the origins of sambo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu and judo are completely intertwined, right? There's this really famous judo academy in Japan called the Kodokan gym, basically Kodokan. Yeah. You can even Google this and maybe pull this up. And the founder of judo is a guy called Jigorō Kanō. So yeah, pull him up. We'll start there, and it'll give a little background.
Because that's easy to spell.
Kanō Jigorō, something along those, right? Jigorō Kanō, or Kanō. Fun fact: I think the martial arts character Kanō was named after this guy. But what the fuck
what
are you?
The hell?
Put that up on the screen. Pull that up so we know. What are you? Hey, come on, man. Look at that. How dare you?
So, what's this got to do with sambo?
So it's Kanō. By the way, for the listeners, Jake just pulled some hentai up on my screen over here. Okay, and space J-I. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Kanō Jigorō. Right. So this is the founder of judo. He's a Japanese guy. Actually, he was a Japanese school teacher, and he basically founded modern day judo. Right. And he had this really famous academy. Yeah, there he is. Pull him up on the main screen. Look at that beautiful man, beautiful old man. So that's this guy. And now you can keep me in the corner there. Pull his Wikipedia page up, and then we'll read the first little bio about him, and then you can go down to notable students. And once you start to see his notable students, this is where this will get interesting. So Jigorō Kanō was the head of this famous judo academy, and he's actually the founder of judo, sort of the godfather of it. And with him, as I said, he was a school teacher. He's basically the person who trained a very familiar name for a lot of you, Maeda, who's the Japanese judoka who taught Carlos Gracie, and who taught França. He's the other branch of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then he is also the instructor of the guy that brought Sambo, or he took judo to Russia and then gave birth to Sambo. So to all my Muslim and Russians brothers who are listening to this podcast, we are like martial arts cousins. So Jake, do me a solid, man, and read that introduction bio there about Jigorō Kanō.
So we have... he was a Japanese educator, athlete, and founder of Judo. Judo was the first Japanese martial art to gain widespread international recognition and the first to become an official Olympic sport. Pedagogical innovations attributed to Kanō include the use of black and white belts and the introduction of the Dan ranking.
So that's interesting. He's also the first person to create the white and the black belts that are pretty much universal across all martial arts now, or traditional martial arts anyway. So sorry, go on.
And the introduction of the Dan ranking to show the relative ranking among members of a martial arts style. Well-known mottos attributed to Kanō include maximum efficiency with minimum effort.
There you go. Say that again.
Maximum efficiency with minimum effort.
So you can see the gentle art type comparisons already, right? Being efficient with your energy. And by the way, he's a small guy, right? And so anyway, let's finish this up.
And the other well-known saying is mutual welfare and benefit.
Yeah. Okay. So now this is the founder of judo, and he's the one who got into the Olympic Games, and he had this really famous academy where he had international students who trained with him. And now do me a favor and go to notable students. It should be if you go up, Jake, in the side panel, zoom in there below his image.
Oh, okay.
And you can even throw that on the main screen as well. No one wants to see my face. Yeah, so pull that up. Look at that first name there. Mitsuya Maeda. Maeda is the Japanese guy who went to Brazil and taught his version of judo. Actually, back then, it was actually called Kanō Jiu-Jitsu. That was the original name of it, right? And so he taught Maeda, who then taught Carlos Gracie, who then later taught Helio Gracie, and he also taught França. And this is a little bit of martial arts history, but everyone attributes all of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu lineage to the Gracies, but there's actually two. Yeah. There's actually two masters, França and Carlos Gracie, and they split, and GF Team is part of the split, right? GF Team is the other side of the tree, right? Along with some other lineage, including Andre Pederneiras, who's a really famous coach. Now, there's one other one I want you to look at here that's very interesting, right? And that's, see if his name...
Let me see if we can guess. Is it the Japanese sounding names or the Russian name?
Yeah, so Vasily Oschepkov, right? Click on him. Okay, so this is the father of Sambo, right? He trained at the Kodokan Academy with Kanō, with Maeda. And this guy is where it dates back to the story that you're talking about, the Russo-Japanese War. Because he went to Japan under some scholarship to study and then started training judo there under Kanō. And then, crazily enough, went back to Russia, started teaching students there, started creating this sport of Sambo, and then later on was put in a prisoner of war camp because they thought he was a Japanese sympathizer and he thought he was a spy. And then they fucking killed him when he was in a prisoner of war camp, shot him in the head, and then later, years later, after his death, exonerated him because he was innocent. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's insane.
That is crazy. So this guy who's the father of the national sport of Russia was killed wrongly in a prisoner of war camp, executed by you know what? Why don't you? Can you? If you zoom out a little bit, Jake, on his find death on this guy, Vasily Oschepkov. It's down there. Can you read what it says in regards to his death? Because it's just crazy. And again, these are our martial arts cousins here. This would be like if Helio Gracie was found treasonous and then shot in the head in a concentration camp or a prison camp.
So we have on the night of 1st to 2nd October 1937, you have to say his name.
Oschepkov?
Was arrested. He died in Petrivka prison, officially of a heart attack. In reality, he was...
Hold on. Officially of a heart attack. Now, go ahead and continue the rest of that sentence.
In reality, he was accused of being a Japanese spy, and 10 days after his arrest, was shot in the head for his fraternization with Japanese imperials. In 1957, Vasil was posthumously, I can't say that word.
Posthumously. Come on, Jake. You're an English teacher, bro.
No, I'm definitely not an English teacher.
Oh, sorry. You're not an English teacher, but
pardoned,
teacher.
Yeah, pardoned and found innocent of any wrongdoing.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Pardoned and found innocent of any wrongdoing. So, what could have been? What could have been? But, you know, I always find this interesting, right? Because, first of all, I've always been a fan of Sambo in regards to its efficacy. I mean, obviously, jiu-jitsu and MMA is life for me, right? And Muay Thai, I love all martial arts equally. And but I always found it interesting because, I mean, Fedor was the obvious first representation of Sambo, particularly combat Sambo, in MMA. But now you're seeing a whole new animal with these Sambo fighters coming into the UFC and coming into MMA. I mean, one of the top contenders in one is a Dagestani Russian Sambo fighter. You have how many? Of course, Khabib. You have Islam. You have the whole Nurmagomedov group. You have Usman Nurmagomedov, who someone commented and wanted us to talk about, who fought in Bellator. You have a top contender in the Bellator, is it middleweight or light heavyweight division? He's also a Russian Sambo guy. Like you have Zabit, right? Magomed Sharipov, a Sambo guy. You have the king of Kung Fu. What's that guy's name? Really, really interesting. I believe he's also a Dagestani or a Russian Sambo fighter. I mean, so Sambo in Russia is developing in the way that BJJ is developing in the last 10 or 15 years in America and in Brazil and also in Europe and everywhere else too. Like, man, you get these Sambo fighters, quote unquote Sambo fighters. Of course, they have amazing ground skill, the throws and the trips, but then you got like Zabit doing jump, spinning back kicks off the cage, like the Showtime kick, and spinning back kicks. And you had this guy, the King of Kung Fu, is it the King of Kung Fu? Damn, I can't remember this guy's name.
I vaguely know what you mean, and I can even see his face.
Yeah, me too. He just fought a few months ago, I think, on Fight Island. But anyway, my point is that you have these guys, and of course Fedor, right, that are developing Sambo, and so many people don't even realize that train now that those are like our martial arts cousins, right? Those are our brothers. All comes from this guy, Jigorō Kanō. And with no disrespect to the Gracies, of course, when Maeda took jiu-jitsu, his version of jiu-jitsu, to Brazil, obviously that culture and that people took it and ran with it and made it evolve in an incredible way, and they deserve all the credit for that. But the origins of all of these grappling martial arts are Japanese. Whether it's Sambo in Russia, whether it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu in Brazil, and then when they brought it to America, America put their little flavor on it. And there are histories of grappling martial arts outside of that. I mean, there's like American catch-can wrestling, and there was you have still pankration, which is from Greece, right? And then you had wrestling, which was in the Olympics, and freestyle and folk style. They have a different base, but kind of as we know it, with the gi, you know what I mean, with the belts, that form of grappling. Sambo uses the gi, Judo uses the gi, BJJ uses the gi. It's all comes from this Kodokan
this one guy.
Judo Academy in Japan. And it's fascinating, right? I don't know. I'm fascinated by martial arts history. I find it very interesting. And you can watch it evolve like it's an organism, right?
Yeah.
The evolution of martial arts in the last... What was Kanō's... he died in 1910 or 1911 or something like that, I think.
He was... Just bringing it up now.
No, maybe it was in the 30s. What is that?
Oh, 1938.
Okay, yeah, 1938. Yeah, he died in 1938 and got judo into the Olympics, and you think about his students and the effect that they've had on the world, and not only that, but like creating their own versions of his systems, right?
Yeah.
And then now they're like level of national attachment that they have, right? I mean, you have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is of course the national martial art effectively of Brazil, right? Sambo is the national martial art of Russia, Judo in Japan, right? I mean, and then of course America now with like no-gi. I would say America is the mecca of no-gi in particular, but it's funny how it all traces itself down, right?
Yeah.
And where it's gone to at this point.
It makes me wonder, like, what else is there to discover? Like, is there another martial art out there that somehow no one's thought, oh, that'd work really well?
Well, it's still evolving for sure. I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at the success of the inside heel hook in the last like 5 years, I mean, in some of the transitions, I mean, there's new guard, the K guard, right? There's new guards developing really, really quickly and new iterations. And then none of this is to disparage the effect that like Sambo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu have had on MMA, right? Which is the way to combine all of these elements, right? When you're combining the boxing, the Muay Thai, the Taekwondo, the Judo, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the Sambo, the punching on the ground, the Vale Tudo, which is kind of like the Brazilian version of combat Sambo, right? The Vale Tudo, where they actually would fight on the ground with their Jiu-Jitsu. So MMA is kind of the melting pot that all of these things have come into. And then you start to see how these individual martial arts have flavored it, right? Because then you can have you can have the people that want to mostly grapple and mostly wrestle, or you can have the Muay Thai guys that tap the like front foot, and the like Western boxers, and they all found their own way to be effective, right? Which is what makes it interesting.
Yeah. What you see more and more of as well today is that you've no longer got the specialists. Like, everyone can now do everything to a certain extent. Like, MMA now, I would say, is its own martial art in a way, if that makes sense. Like, you could go to school and just learn MMA, and then you're getting all those things put together instead of being a BJJ specialist, instead of being a Muay Thai specialist. You actually can now go and just be an MMA specialist.
Yeah, and what makes that interesting too, I think, is that the martial arts is so dynamic. I mean, just going back to trying to teach one of my students some Sambo, right? Like we have 2 Judo black belts that work for us at Stronghold. And I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt, and obviously I know how to collar fight, and I know some basic trips and some basic throws and stuff, but my level of proficiency in the pure judo is not nearly as high as like a judo black belt, right?
Yeah.
But my wrestling is higher, right? So it's funny because if you go to an MMA school, you're sort of stuck with dealing with these specialists, right? And they're flavoring your style. So as I'm teaching Sid all of these certain moves, like, actually in Sambo, you can ippon, right? So you can get an instant win by hitting a perfect throw. And a perfect throw means like I throw you or I trip you or I do whatever, and if I can stay on my feet throughout the process. So if you pull me down and I land in the side control or I do that, then that's points. Yeah. But if I can hit you with a perfect throw and I land squatted in front of you with my balance on my feet, that's an instant win, like a submission.
Yeah.
Right? So, boom. Match is over instantly. And I find that interesting, but my point is if you go and you train at any MMA gym, like you're going to deal with the guy who's got the boxing wrestling. You're going to deal with the guy who's got maybe some kickboxing experience and is like a jiu-jitsu whatever belt. And then you're going to deal with the guy, maybe he's an MMA fighter, but has he done clinching in Thailand? Okay, well, is this guy a judo black belt? And like the level of skills are so diverse and there's so many ways you can do it that there's really no one way.
Yeah.
Because we've had effective wrestler boxers, right? We've had effective like Khabib, like take down, wrestle, fuck, get on top, submit you. We've had successful all of that. We've had the Anderson Silva slick strikers that are jiu-jitsu black belt. Wrestling's maybe not perfect, but maybe dangerous from their back. And you've seen so many different versions of it that work that there is no right answer. But it's interesting how like where you are and the styles that have influenced your coaches can affect the way that you perform, right?
Yeah, it's if we touch semi-tight into the UFC today, like I always think it's interesting with the European fighters, and Vettori's actually different to this, that I think the European fighters often struggle with grappling because it's just not a thing in Europe particularly. Like no one wrestled when I grew up.
It doesn't have its own tradition in the same way of grappling, right?
Yeah.
But what they have is boxing.
Yeah.
And kickboxing.
Yes,
you like Holland,
the Dutch style of like kickboxing, that's Europe wide, and obviously boxing's huge in Britain.
England's had amazing champions. It has 2 current ones. There's been German champions in the past. There's like obviously Holland has amazing kickboxing.
Yeah, but what I cannot tell you, I don't even think we've had an Olympic wrestler. Yeah, that is how poor wrestling is. Or if we have, they've been knocked out in the first round. Like,
bro, that's because they introduced alcohol too early, right? Like, those people, they don't want to grapple, bro. They want to get drunk and throw down,
rip bombs at each other's head.
But what they do have is bare knuckle boxing. That's what they have.
Yeah.
Because if you go to the ground, that's weakness, bro. That's weakness. Stand up, man.
You're being soft. He's so bad that not Vettori, but another Italian was fighting a few weeks back, and they were, instead of saying shoot a takedown, they were telling him rugby tackle.
That's their comparison. That's funny, man. But, I mean, Marvin Vettori, but what's interesting about him is that he's very well-rounded. He's very well-rounded. I didn't know how he'd approach Kevin Holland. So today, we just saw these fights earlier today. It was the most recent one. A couple big takeaways from the Kevin Holland-Marvin Vettori fight. First of all, Marvin Vettori is legit. He's legit. So all you Italian fans, you got one. You got a legitimate middleweight prospect who looks very good. And what I like about him is he has several ways to win.
Yeah.
Right? Like that fight with Jack Hermanson, that fight was good. They stood in front of each other and they were just brawling the whole time. Like their fight or their range was like pure boxing range the whole time. But periodically, Vettori would sprinkle in the takedowns. And often it was Hermanson that was looking for them. But Vettori has such good defense. He's built like a bull, man. His neck and his shoulder, like he's built like a fridge. He's as wide as he is tall. And so he had an amazing fight with him. He's the only guy to go to a split decision with Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
It says how good he is. He's young. He's 28. He's younger than a lot of the division. He was able to use his wrestling to win today. So Italy, you got one. You got a real prospect here. He's young. He's got a lot of hype in the division. It's going to be tough to know if he's got the tool set to beat Adesanya, but he's got the biggest upside. I think he's the youngest ranked top 5 fighter in that division.
Yeah, I think so.
So, I mean, got one. But Kevin Holland, I don't know, man. What's your opinion on Kevin Holland? I like him. I like his mouth. I like that he talks shit. He's funny. He's entertaining. Like, I'm entertained watching him fight.
But talking shit only works when you're winning.
Yeah.
Like he's and I do think he's a great guy. Like when he was doing it and he was fighting and he was winning, he's brilliant. But then who did he fight the fight before? Brunson.
Yeah, Derek Brunson.
Oh, and he's shouting to Khabib, "Tell me how to wrestle. Tell me how to wrestle."
Which is kind of funny.
He's funny, but not when you're getting out wrestled in a fight. It's not.
Yeah.
Like I get it, and it was amusing. And if he'd have won the fight, everyone had been going wild about it and how great it was. But he didn't win the fight. He put in a very poor performance and spent all his time just talking. It didn't make sense.
Yeah, I thought for this fight he had a better balance.
Yeah.
He talked a little bit, but he still lost the fight. But for all you BJJ people, you're not going to like where I'm going with this conversation. But
It's all right. We'll talk about Mackenzie Dern in a bit.
We'll get to her, and then you'll get the reverse side of this argument. But you can just tell that Kevin Holland is a guy who spent most of his grappling time doing like slap hands, fist bump, jiu-jitsu. Because like he closes the guard all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's trying to throw up submissions. He's only trying to sweep. Like even against Derek Brunson, like he's closing the body triangle all the time. It's like, what are you doing? That's locking him on top of you. And like, okay, you could play with that a little bit, but if it doesn't work, you got to change your strategy.
Yeah.
And against Marvin Vettori, like he would keep getting taken down over and over again. First of all, his octagon awareness is really bad. He would back up and get pinned against the octagon all the time. Like, because Vettori's pressing forward, but he doesn't know when to use his lateral movement to get his back off the cage. Most of Vettori's takedowns came from off the cage.
Yeah.
So if he used his footwork better and learned how to cut angles and not move backward in a straight line, that would help his takedown defense a lot. Because in the open, it's harder to take him down. If you pin him against the cage, man, he gets really lazy. His hand fighting was really bad. Like I was telling you before the podcast, like Vettori would be in on a double. He would be under his legs, or he would have the body lock. He would have his hands connected, and Kevin Holland is and he's punching him in the body like this while he's in on his legs. It's like, dude, you got to pummel. You got to get inside. You got to push down the head. You got to crossface. You got to fight the hands. Like, you can't, there's nothing to be gained from punching him there. Like, this dude's been in wars. What are you going to do to him? You think you're going to hurt him with a body shot when you're that close? There's no space. You need distance to create power with strikes. And so if you're punching him on the body when he's in on your legs, he'll take that all day. You need to get in there, fight his hands. Like, it's just his priorities are off. And DC even made a point in the commentary about, like, he only sees what's in front of him. He's not aware of what's going on behind his back, the gripping and the connecting of the hands and the trips. And
I think because it worked against Jacare that time. It was Jacare, wasn't it?
Yeah, they knocked out from his back.
From his back.
Which is crazy.
But I think because it works once, he thinks, oh, it might work all the time. And it's like, no, that was probably a one-off. You're probably never going to do that again.
Yeah, but that's extremely rare.
Yeah, but he seems to think it's a go-to, is what it looks like. And it just looks like, how old is he?
28, 29?
Like, if he could get his fight IQ up, he'd be dangerous.
But it's just too much BJJ training, man. Too much Two things Kevin Holland needs to do. And you can... I know what I'm looking at, right? I mean, I'm not a fucking master of everything, but two things he needs to do is, number one, he needs to train in a cage. You just can't get pinned up against the cage like that.
Yeah.
You got to use your lateral footwork. You got to shuffle step. You got to not learn how to get someone to not cut you off, because Vettori's just walking forward, and when Kevin Holland moves to one side, he steps to that side, and then when he moves out, he's stepping over here, and then within 3 or 4 steps, he's getting his back to the cage. Derek Brunson did the same thing to him, and I think that's because he's training in a large open space where he's got infinite room to move backwards. And if you're not actually training, like, the cage is a weapon, right? Yeah. It is a weapon. It's a outside force that you have to learn how to manipulate. And I just feel like when he's training in the gym, he can just move backward, and he's not dealing with that barrier. And when he is like wall wrestling or cage wrestling, it's only that specific drill. It's not the whole rounds that he's doing, right? It's like, okay, time to wall wrestle. But it's not like, okay, we're starting on the feet, and then someone's going to cut you off and try to push you back against the cage. And the other thing is just accepting the bottom position. You just can't, because to Kevin Holland's credit, his striking is damn dynamic.
Every time it got on the feet, it looked close.
Man,
and it looked like Holland could do something.
Heat.
Yeah.
He throws heat. He's dangerous.
But he can't keep it on the feet.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. And a lot of that is him accepting the bottom position. A lot of that is like trying to punch when he should be fighting for a position. Like, and I always tell this to my students when we're training MMA, there's always a dichotomy that you have to try to balance when you're training MMA, and that's between punching and grappling. Because when I'm grappling you, you can't really hit me. because you have to fight for the position. As soon as you stop moving and I don't have to control you anymore, now I can hit you, right? And that's the difference. Like if I'm forced to control you because you're in motion, I can't hit you when you're in motion.
Yeah.
Right? Because I have to be taking you down. When I'm taking you down, you have to defend the takedown and then you're safe from punches. As soon as we stop moving, now you can hit me. When I start moving, now you have to adjust and start fighting the body posture and the positioning and all that kind of stuff. And you get these jiu-jitsu people that think they can play on their back and they just can submit and sweep everybody. He had a nice sweep in the first round. It was really over the head. He just kind of tuck and rolled. That was sick. But it's just different with the punches. And he really needs to train his defensive wrestling and his octagon awareness. Because you can be Stylebender, right? Stylebender doesn't have the best wrestling. Yeah. But his distance control, and he knows when his back is against the cage. Like he knows the space. He knows how to cut angles. And he knows how to move his feet. And I'm sure pure wrestling is not that great, but he uses other skills to mitigate the deficiencies that he has in that one area. So Kevin Holland could go that route, but it needs to be one or the other. Like he needs to learn how to measure the distance better, not get his back pinned against the cage, or he's got to learn how to get up when someone's on top of him.
Yeah.
To turn his back. He's got to turn his back. You can't. It's so hard to stand up when someone's facing you and he's playing guard. It's like at a certain point, you got to show your back. You may get your back taken, but you got to get up, right?
But he's got long legs and good jiu-jitsu, and he keeps on getting his feet to the hips, and then doesn't push off and just closes guard again.
I know.
And you're just push him backwards.
So frustrating. Yeah. He's so fun, right? Like he's so fun. He could be a superstar.
Yeah.
And the other thing you got to love about Kevin Holland is he just does not give a shit. He
No,
will fight
3 weeks notice. Fair play.
5 times last year. He fought Derek Brunson 3 weeks ago. He's fighting again. He's had 7 fights in a year.
Yeah. Is that 2 5-round fights back to back?
Yes.
Yes. That's crazy.
And
that's amazing cardio.
Doesn't give a shit. And you got to love a person that's that down.
Yeah.
Right. But I feel like he may need to take some time to address the deficiencies because he went 5-0 last year and now he's 0-2 this year.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's because he went 5-0 last year. All of a sudden, he's in the top 10, top 5-ish of the division. And now everybody knows what his weakness is. Okay, Jacare took him down. He's got taken down a few times, but he was always able to come out on top. And then Derek Brunson took him down a bunch of times. And now Marvin Vettori took him down a bunch of times. And all these top guys are going to start to see that that's the weakness. And if you want to keep being active, now everybody kind of knows how to deal with you. If you don't take time to specifically strengthen those areas, then you're going to be in for long nights against these people who now are developing a game plan for you.
Yeah. Not
to just fight, but to fight you specifically, which is the issue that you run into in the top 10, right?
Yeah. He's super tough as well. So, Vettori was taking him down, but it never really looked like it was getting finished. I think there was once where he got him in a head and arm, but outside of that, I never thought, this is going to end. So he's clearly he's clearly got the cardio, clearly got the toughness, clearly got the stand-up. He just seems to be lacking in fight IQ and wrestling.
Yeah, fight IQ, wrestling, and then kind of awareness. Awareness of but particularly in the grappling. But even then, his jiu-jitsu defense is good.
Yeah.
But that doesn't win you fights in MMA, especially in the UFC.
No.
Anyway, let's roll on because I want to get to this, and then we still have to talk about one championship.
Very excited.
One championship.
So there's the rest of the card. Arnold Allen, I think that's 10 in a row for him.
Dude, he's a beast.
Yep.
He's a beast. He looked good in that fight. Sadiq Youssef also looked quite good in that fight.
I think
he's one of the best British prospects.
Yeah.
Is he the best? Darren Till and him are probably the top 2 right now, I would say.
Oh, no, Leon's number 1 by a long stretch. Rocky.
What about, I don't know. Darren Till's up there. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're just boring. He's boring. Anyway, no disrespect. You fucked me up. But
yeah, but I thought...
You're right. British MMA is pretty fucking good right now.
We got 3 good ones.
Yeah.
So, but I thought, when you talk about fight IQ, I actually thought Allen showed really good fight IQ in the third. That he basically said, all right, I can lose the third. As long as I don't lose badly, I've won the fight. And that's exactly what he did in the third round. He wasn't trying to strike. He was just making sure he wasn't getting hit, but he didn't mind getting slightly outstruck. And every opportunity possible, he just clinched and grappled and wasn't even overly concerned about winning the grappling exchange, just stopping the fight. I think it showed good fight IQ on this part.
That is good fight IQ. You know, that it's like when you describe that to me, I always have this one example of a fight that I refer back to when I try to explain this to my students or something like that. And it's always DC Cormier 2. Or DC Stipe. DC Cormier 2. What? DC fought himself. No, Cormier Stipe 2, the second one. Right, Cormier's winning all that fight. He won all those 3 rounds. He starts getting hit with that body shot, and he keeps getting into a fight with him.
Yeah.
He keeps staying in the pocket. It's like, dude, and every time he would get hurt, he would come forward and he would keep swinging. When he's hurt, because he's trying to fight back, but it's like, dude, get on your bike. Like, if you get hit in the body shot, step back, shuffle. You can give this round to win the fight.
Yeah. Have you thought about wrestling, that thing you're really good at?
But even if he doesn't want to wrestle, right? Like, let's say he's worried about getting inside or whatever. Like, you can just give up the round.
Yeah.
Give up the round to win the fight. Lose the battle to win the war. And I think Allen did that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he didn't have to. He could have stood there, but then you risk all of the damage, right? And that DC Stipe fight, it's like he was already up 3 rounds clearly.
Yeah.
And then, like, once he got hit hard enough to where he was like, oh, shit. He needs to actually, like, register that threat. And then, because he got hit again, and then the hand comes down, and the bombs come over the top, and then, fuck, he's getting swarmed. If he had just, like, gotten his bike, shuffled it on the outside, like, stayed away, backed up, like, clinched, even if it's a defensive clinch, even if he got pushed and grabbed him, and then his back was against the cage, even if he got taken down.
Yeah.
Like, he could have pulled guard and made that fight last until the end of the round.
Yeah.
Like, and he would have sacrificed that one battle to win the war. And, that's high-level intelligence there. This is, like, the opposite of Kevin Holland, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's hit through this pretty quick, the rest of it, hey? So we got Sam Alvey and Julian Marquez.
Fun fight?
Is that Julian Marquez guy, the guy that called out Miley Cyrus?
I don't know.
Is that him? I think that's him. Anyway, fun fight.
Fun fight, swinging at each other?
Yeah, good. Yeah. Good barred burner.
Oh, no, the finish was brutal, the choke.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah.
That was brutal. He went out.
Yeah, he went out.
Yeah. You know what I hate too? I saw this on Instagram, and it was like, it's just this bro mentality of people being like, yeah, kudos to Alvey for going out on your shield. It's like, does it make you tough to go unconscious? I just don't. I saw this like several things. Oh, by the way, remind me, we got to talk about Aljamain Sterling.
Yes.
The neck surgery. Did you see this?
I saw he had to have neck surgery.
Yeah, pull up his Instagram later. Just remind me.
Yeah,
remind me, 'cause
I've got to get into your Instagram, so yeah, we can.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I just don't understand this idea of like, it's somehow manlier to get choked unconscious. It's like, the only person who says that is a guy that doesn't train.
Yeah, who's never been choked unconscious.
It's like, kudos for going out on your shield. What? What? It's like, oh, yeah, because he's in there in a fucking cage fight, risking it all in front of everybody, and somehow him going unconscious gives him like his man card. It's like, what is this nonsense? Anyway, good fight, fun fight. Was that fight of the night?
I don't know.
Must have been.
Yeah, I reckon. I'll put the others up.
Nina Ansaroff, also known as Nina Nunes now. Did you see that?
I did. It confused me because on the card I saw Nunes. I was like, what?
Yeah. Which is funny because Nina Ansaroff is like a top 5 in her division. So you got to be dating a fucking alpha for her to change her last name. Like,
she's dating the actual GOAT though.
She is dating the most alpha female of all time. So yeah, she should change her name. But kudos to them. But she lost that fight. I mean, Mackenzie Dern's jiu-jitsu is just too good.
Yeah.
But she's another one. I mean, it remains to be seen how long this will go. Actually, I mean, Nina, I think was ranked 5th, so
yeah,
she's worked her way up to the top.
Not just, but she's coming back off having a kid, so she had at least a year off.
But is it strawweight? Is that Rose and Wei Li, or is that Valentina? Can you check? I get those divisions confused.
Okay.
Let's see who the champion of strawweight is. Or can you pull up the strawweight rankings? Yeah, women's strawweight rankings. I believe that's John Wei Li and Rose Namajunas. Rankings women's strawweight, and then it should give you And you can pull that up on the main too when you got a second. Women's.
Yeah, it's Zhang Wei Li.
Okay, can you pull up the women's rankings?
Yeah. Oh, wait.
Okay, so yeah, now
Sorry, I'm knocking them up. It's trying to make me accept cookies.
But fucking cookies. So okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, so the top 5 here is going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for Mackenzie Dern because now, okay, so she beat Nina Nunes. So she beat Nina, and that's going to give her the 5th or 6th rank. So now she's going to deal with Carla Esparza, Yan Xiaonan. And by the way, she's good. The number 3 ranked Chinese female, she is damn good.
Yeah.
She's very, very good. Joanna, best takedown defense in the UFC female division. Rose, amazing takedown defense. And then the juggernaut that is Zhang Wei Li, the physical manifestation of the X-Men juggernaut. I mean, yeah. Now we're going to see. Whoever she fights next, we're going to see how well this jiu-jitsu shit works. I mean, to be fair to Mackenzie Dern, she has struck in fights. She's not afraid to strike.
Her stand-up does not look terrible. Like some BJJ.
She's not afraid to do it, but is it technical enough that if she can't get the fight to the ground that she can win? I think not.
Not against
yet.
some of those people.
Yeah. So the rubber's going to meet the road pretty soon here for Mackenzie Dern, and we'll see how she deals with the top 5. She got just about as far as she can expect to armbar people in the first round, I think. I don't see many first-round armbars coming in that top 5.
But she does have that if she can get any of those top 5 to the ground, she is significantly better than most of them.
I don't know if she can do it in like, maybe, let's say she gets an early takedown. Can she do it in like 3 minutes?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I mean, she got the armbar in the last, 30 seconds today?
Yeah.
That, so she.
But Joanna, like Zhang Wei Li, Rose. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Because even in BJJ, right, you get 10 minutes, dude. MMA, by the time you get the takedown, assuming you get it quick, you got like 4 minutes to work with.
Yeah. Quick right. So all we're saying is she needs a quick takedown in the center of the ring in the first 10 seconds of the first round
to get half of a round.
Yeah, then she's gonna win.
To get half of a round in BJJ.
Yeah.
Right, because black belts get 10 minutes. So I mean, I was watching this. Did you watch the most recent GSP podcast with Joe Rogan?
I've started it. I've not got very far into it.
So it's quite interesting because apparently GSP decided, I think it was against Bisping, that he wasn't going to do. He wasn't going to do like slap hands, fist bump, jiu-jitsu for 5 minutes, right? Because normally he would do like his rolling would be 5 minutes, like a UFC round. He decided he would only do 3 minutes. Because even if he gets a takedown, most likely you're only going to have 3 minutes. And the level of urgency is so different when you have to submit somebody after the takedown in MMA, right? And he's like, that slap hand, fist bump, chill, rolling shit, like, is totally different than MMA.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, best case scenario, you get like 3 or 4 minutes. I mean, you're not getting a takedown in the first 30 seconds of the fight against high-level people. Like, maybe you get 3. That's like on a good day. So he's like, okay. And it changes the urgency of the rolls. Because if you're like a normal, I mean, we do like 6 or 7 minute rolls at Stronghold.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine if like, okay, I only have 3 minutes to submit this black belt. I mean, they can stall out. Good luck. It's pretty tough. You know what I mean? So I thought that was interesting, and that's a strategy I think I'll steal in the future for my MMA guys. Is like you only get
3 minutes
because now you gotta go.
Yeah.
Because it's totally different than if you can chill on your back for 4 or 5 minutes and then whatever. So that's what I foresee being the problem with Mackenzie Dern. Even if she gets it down, like you get Joanna on top. If you got 3 minutes to work, she can probably stall you out. Because again, most of your time, if you're Mackenzie Dern, is going to be spent trying to control them, not like passing the guard or not like side control. Like they're fighting to make you hold them down. Like the whole battle is actually keeping them down, not just like, okay, now I'm going to work this armbar from the mount. Like, you mount people in the gym, you get side control. You can spend 3 or 4 minutes in the side control, but they're just keeping their elbows in. You're not trying to hold them down because they're always trying to stand up. That changes everything.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how Mackenzie does.
I think especially as well with the way that the UFC's scored, where they're not really giving points anymore just for holding someone down.
Yeah.
Like they're not. You need to be attempting and nearly getting a submission to get big points for that round. If you're just inside control and it's
no damage.
No damage. Nothing's happening. You're not actually and say you spent 2 minutes on the feet and you've lost those 2 minutes, and then you get a takedown for 3 minutes, but you don't do anything. You've probably lost the round still.
Yeah. Agreed. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to watch her because now she should have a good one coming up. So I'm quite curious to see how she'll do in the top 5 of the division. Maybe she'll be the first ever pure BJJ person to get a UFC belt. I doubt it, but
we'll see.
I doubt it. But we'll see. All right, dude. Let's hit up the one.
All right, do you want to just do the last one on the main card, which was
Mike Perry?
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Perry just banging, bro. He had a nice takedown in the first round. That Daniel Rodriguez guy, his stand-up is sharp. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, he looked good.
I guess is he training under
Joe
Schilling?
Yeah.
I mean, he looked pretty good. Mike Perry just seems like one of those guys who's not afraid to fight, but isn't interested in mastering fighting. Doesn't have a head coach, doesn't put all of the time in. He has his girlfriend in his corner and all that kind of stuff. And
I think
it's fun to a point, but you're hitting the level now. I mean, that guy had a bang. He almost beat Vicente Luque at one point. Like, he's got the skill, like, or the potential. The raw ingredients are there. But if he's not going to approach this thing with the level of dedication that you would want and need as a high-level professional athlete, then I think he's hit his ceiling.
Yeah,
He beat Paul Felder. I mean, Paul Felder's fucking legend.
Bizarrely, him and Darren Till have a very strange, like, love-hate relationship sort of thing. And Darren Till sent out a message after the fight today saying, look, come and train with me, train with my camp, train with my team. You need a team. You've got all the tools. You don't have a team. Yeah. And I think that is the case with him, that he doesn't maybe have the discipline to, like, right, I'm your head coach, this is what you're going to do, and you're going to do it.
He doesn't have the discipline to have somebody discipline him.
Yes, yeah, that's it, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, he has enough discipline to show up to training. He's always in good shape. But, you know, at a certain point, you just have to take someone else's advice. Like, you have to listen to them. Like, you have to know that your opinion and your desires are not always the best. Like, you are limited by your own subjectivity, right? And you need somebody to see objectively what your weaknesses are and diagnose your issues and all that kind of stuff. And he just doesn't seem like he doesn't seem very coachable.
No.
So, I mean, I think in the room he will listen, but not enough to let somebody actually take control of his entire camp. And, you know, if that's the case, I think he's reached his ceiling. But it'll be interesting to see how the Darren Till thing goes. I saw that tweet as well where he messaged him and said, hey, my coach is a legend. Come here, train with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. In a way, you wish he'd do it because he's clearly got the skill and the physical attributes.
And he's got the marketability and the entertainment value. Like, the UFC's tried, right? I mean, he's fun. Like, he gets a lot of love on social media for better or worse, right? Like, he's a character. People like him.
Did you see when he got his genome sequencing done or whatever it was? And it turned out he was like 1% black. So he's like, oh, I can say the N-word.
Yeah, now. I saw that.
No, that's not how it works.
Yeah, that's definitely not how it works. But he's ghetto enough that he can pull it off somehow.
Yeah.
All right, man, let's hit up the one.
So I need you quickly to log me onto your Instagram.
To my Instagram?
Yeah, because I don't know my password.
Oh, Jesus. For what? Why do you need...
So we can show the finish.
You can't just Google it? Or you have to actually be...
No, it needs to be on Instagram.
If you just type Instagram in, it might be logged in already.
No, it's not.
Oh,
I've tried. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay,
We'll edit this. Oh, do you want to take a quick...
Yeah, I got to pee anyway, so let's do a quick pause. Yeah. Okay. And we are back. Instagram is up. We took a potty break. Now we're good to go. So I kind of want to finish the podcast up on one because the one last week was crazy. I wanted to do a breakdown video of this, and I still may. But, man, we had some massive upsets. This was the one's first ever show on TNT in America. And funnily enough, it was actually filmed in Singapore.
Yeah.
But they did it at the right time, I guess, so that it was on late night in the U.S. And this was kind of like one starting to stretch their toes a little bit and to tap into the American market, which is why they had guys like DJ and Eddie Alvarez on the card.
Apparently, it was on as well after not the WWE, but whatever the other AEW, I think it is, or something like that. The other big wrestling promotion. It was on straight after that, to
which
try
is
and
smart.
Get that audience. Yeah, clever.
That was smart. Unfortunately, the first fight on the main card ended horribly, and there's a lot to sort of break down in this. So Eddie Alvarez fought Yuri Lipicius.
Should I bring the card up?
Yeah, bring up the card. And so he just fought Yuri Lipicius in the first fight on the main card. And Yuri is a guy who just fought for the title. He just lost to Christian Lee most recently in a short fight. Kind of interesting. Yuri dropped Christian Lee within the first 10 seconds of the fight when Christian was just berserking his way in. And but then Christian got him down and smashed him after that. So, all of the writing was kind of on the wall here that this was Eddie's chance to break in and get the title fight. But as you saw...
should I play it?
Yeah, go ahead and play it. Let's pull this thing up.
We should have sound.
So let's see what we got here.
Because if you hear it with the ref, it's very interesting.
So you can see... Yeah.
Back of the head.
So he did get a warning. I was wondering if he got a warning.
Strike the back of the head. Go strike the back of the head. Let's go. Stop.
Okay. So that's interesting. I'm glad we have the audio here because I was wondering if the ref had given several warnings. And honestly, I kind of made a joke on the group chat here. Pull up finish watching. Can we pull it back up again?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I feel like Lipicius kind of took a football dive here.
Yeah. We've not actually spoke about this, so I am interested to see what you think, and then I'll say what I think, and you're obviously the expert. Here we go.
Yeah, so let's pull up this thing because these were borderline for sure. But I've never seen a reaction to like getting kind of punched in this neck side of the ear where he see. I mean, I'm conflicted here because you never really know what the damage was like until you're the person being hit, right?
Yeah.
You don't know how much it hurts, and he did get a lot of warnings, and they were borderline.
But I understand he got warnings, but I've seen that sort of thing before, and they'd be told, just watch the back of the head, and then they're not disqualified. And he doesn't knock him out by hitting him on the back of the head. He knocks him out because he cries in pain and backs off, and then gets hammer-fisted to pieces. So
I mean, I do think he got one that was pretty borderline. The rest seemed like they were just behind the ear there. And I don't know. They said on the broadcast that apparently the one rule is past the ear constitutes the back of the head. Now, the UFC rule is like the mohawk, right? That's what they would used to say is like you imagine somebody having a mohawk, that strip goes thinner down toward the spine.
Yeah.
And you're basically dealing with like a small area basically like along the spine, right? So, but behind the ear is not the spine. And I don't think behind the ear necessarily constitutes the back of the head. He did get a lot of warnings though. I couldn't remember that because I hadn't seen it. I watched it live, but I hadn't seen like the follow-up. It was disappointing for everybody. I heard that Yuri got taken out in a stretcher. I don't know how much of that is like...
But I think that's because he got hammer-fisted he got absolutely blasted. So he's screaming. I'll put it on again. And then he screams and comes back, and Alvarez just rains down on him. And that's what did the damage.
Yeah, and I will say, though, that the one it looked like actually went to the back of his head did elicit the reaction of him to go back and cry in pain. Pull that up again. One more time.
We could be on this all day.
Yeah.
It's like that's how close it is, and I don't know the answer.
I don't know the answer either. But the reason why I'm starting to think that it's fair is because he got loud warnings like 4 times. Like when you get that many warnings, you kind of gotta just abandon that, right? And posture up. And Eddie was destroying him, right?
Yeah.
He was just destroying him.
Right, I'll play it, and if we don't talk over it, and we can count the warnings,
yeah,
so I think I can do this.
And then one more thing before we started, count the warnings, and then also there was one that looked like it went the deepest toward the back of the head, and right after that is when he saw the reaction.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at this one more time. There's solid shots though. Hey. That's like neck kind of. That's
yeah.
But then, sorry, I'll give my input in a second. 2, 3. And then he stopped it when he went down, right? Like he stopped it after he'd fallen back already. I don't know. It's tough.
If Alvarez doesn't follow up with the hammer fist, which I think finishes him, say Alvarez, so he said don't hit the back of the head, and he doesn't, then it's not a disqualification. He's going to let the fight go on.
Maybe they give him a yellow card or something like that.
Yeah.
As in one, they give yellow cards.
I was shocked when the red card came out.
Me too. It was a lose-lose, right? Like nobody kind of wanted it to go that way. I mean, Eddie Alvarez was warned, and then he just kept throwing those shots. And there's a couple issues here. One, like, I get the rule, right? But also, this is like the UFC equivalent of people putting their hand down to try to avoid the knee, because Yuri's literally exposing the back of his head to avoid these shots. Because he knows, like, okay, you can hit me here, so I'm going to expose the back of my head, which is the most vulnerable spot in the body. So in one sense, like, you're not allowed to strike the back of the head, but in the other sense, like, he's turning the back of his head to you, which is the most dangerous spot to be hit to try to avoid this. So he's gaming the rules a little bit, and also, like, he's in a martial arts context, a pure martial arts context. If you expose the most vital part of your body to strikes to game the system, it's like, it's not a good move. Like you would never like, okay, you're not allowed to hit me here, so let me give you the most vulnerable part of my body because it's illegal to hit me there. It's disappointing for all parties, I think. Nobody wanted to see it like that. I guess they kind of have to do a rematch now, but if you're one, you weren't enjoying that.
No, on your your coming out party to America with like your second biggest American fighter on the card, and that's how it went down. Like, no one wanted that.
Yeah, no one wanted that. Nobody.
No.
Eddie didn't want that. Yuri didn't want that. One didn't want that. And it was a violation of the rules, I would say, especially considering all the warnings that he received, and he kept throwing it. And he's like, watch the back of the head. Also, Eddie's not really looking, right? He's got kind of his head down. He's throwing them. So when they're like, watch the back of the head, at some point he should have like tried to register where those shots are landing, and he just keeps throwing them. So lose-lose for everybody. But, you know, you hope, I guess they have to do a rematch. And just for Eddie, you're like, damn, man, like he's had a couple rough fights in one. Hey, like his first fight, Nastyukin crushed him. His second fight, he got dropped by Edward Foleang, and he managed to get the win, but he got dropped bad.
But only because Foleang made the mistake of following him down to the floor.
Yeah.
If he'd have stayed on his feet, I don't think Eddie would have got back up.
Yeah, very possibly. So, I mean, listen, he's had a... Say what you want about one. Like, the champions in the UFC that have gone to one have not fared very well, which shows to something to the talent pool in one.
Speaking of which, the DJ fight.
Yeah, and this is interesting, right? Because you can pull up a tweet of Mighty Mouse saying that grounded knees should be legal. But I don't know how much he was actually training them.
And we don't know if he actually... Did he know that was the rule? I mean, I'm joking, obviously he did, but did he?
But he obviously...
His natural instincts, because of all that time in the UFC, were... He can't knee me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So even though objectively he may have known that those were the rules, his muscle memory had not been trained enough for him to avoid coming up with his head forward when somebody's got the cross frame on you, right? Like Moraes had a frame on him, right? And for all you martial arts nerds out there, the thing that makes and I like the knee to the grounded opponent. I think you should be able to do that because in the UFC, I can't strike you with my lower body when you're grounded. Right? Like I'm not allowed to knee or kick you when you're grounded, right? So in the UFC, if I'm framing you when I'm on top of you, I can only punch you, but my hands are occupied by trying to keep you down on the ground. But in one, if I can knee you to your head when you're grounded, I can frame with my upper body and strike you with my lower body still, which makes all of these positions way more dangerous. And, Mighty Mouse was just trying to come up. He was just trying to defend that takedown. And then that knee came straight over the top through the frame. And you see DJ's eyes roll back in his head. He was done.
Shall I pull it up? Because it is a brutal knockout.
Yeah. Let's definitely watch that. Oh,
this might not be it. This might be reaction from it.
Yeah, I think this is just reaction to it. So it's going to be here in a few seconds. They've slow-moed it. So watch. Moraes has this frame. See that? Boom! See how he's got the left frame? Now that he can strike with the lower body because that frame is set. So it allows him space to drop that knee. And so just transfer it over right before that knee one more time, Jake. Right now. So you can see, watch, he's going to have the left forearm frame. And then he postures up and boom! Done. I mean, that is brutal. And this kind of dovetails back to the original point I was making with the Sambo and BJJ thing. The rules change everything.
Yeah.
Right? Which is interesting because in the UFC, that Eddie Alvarez thing may have not been a disqualification. May have been, but it may not have been, right? Depending on the judgment of the referee as to whether or not he thinks those knees are going to the back of the head. But go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The one I'll compare it to for the UFC, where I think it'd have been fine in the UFC, is do you remember when Conor fought Chad Mendes?
Yeah.
And was just elbowing it in the back of the head from the ground. But like you say, it was on the mohawk. It wasn't the back of the ear.
Yeah.
So it wasn't getting square in the back of the head. They let that go. So I think in the UFC, I don't necessarily even think he'd have got a warning.
Or when a more recent example was when Cyril Gane fought Junior Dos Santos. This was like two fights ago or something. He kind of hit him with an elbow, but again, Junior was showing his back, right? Like Junior's turned away to retreat, and he's trying to aim this thing for his head. And if you turn away, then you expose the back of your head. Like I don't know. There needs to be some sort of judgment there as to like balancing, protecting the fighter and making sure they're not getting struck in the back of the head, because I think that's important. And fighters showing the back of their head to try and
stop getting hit.
Yeah. It's like, okay, but if you're turning your back on somebody, you can't expose the vital parts of you can't, as opposed to the side of your head. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
I guess what the actual thing that should discourage him from doing it is that you're playing with fire, because, all right, you're turning the back of the head and, you can't hit me there now. But if someone's midway through swinging a punch and can't pull out, you're going to get cracked in the back of the head.
Yeah, so it's the same thing in the UFC when you get those guys who will, like, post their hand on the ground, lift it up, and post it back down, and put it, because they know they can't be kneed right there. And it's like, all right, man. I mean, you're just gamifying the rules so much that it does just kind of leave a sour taste in everybody's mouth.
Yeah.
Right? But crazy. I mean, Adriano Moraes is definitely one of the top flyweights in the world now. Because up until this point, I mean, DJ had one split decision loss in 15 fights?
Yeah, he'd never been finished.
He was pound for pound number one. His only loss in that entire time was a split decision to Henry Cejudo in a close fight.
Yeah.
So in the terms of the global rankings, you still have to have DJ at number 2. With Cejudo gone, it probably goes to Mighty Mouse again. Or Mighty Mouse, or maybe Figueiredo. Right? But like Mighty Mouse is still clearly, just based on his record, his work, 1 or 2 in the world.
Yeah.
Based on the body of work, the fact that loss was a split decision. He came to won all of his fights, right? Cejudo retired, he left the division. So you still got it. That has to put him in the global rankings at 1 or 2.
Yeah.
1 or 2. You still might give it to Figueiredo because he's in the UFC and that sort of ranking system is more fleshed out and yada, yada, yada. But if he's not 1, he's 2. With that win. And by the way, he got some takedowns on DJ also.
He looked good.
He looked good. It wasn't like that was necessarily a fluke. Like, he had his moments. He's a big-ass flyweight too, man. He was towering over DJ. So, and by the way, the 1 flyweight division is damn good. They might have one of the best. They could potentially compete with the UFC with their top 5 flyweights. They're good. They're damn good.
Yeah.
So that did bring, I think, a little bit of legitimacy to 1's flyweight division. Like Eddie Alvarez losing in the lightweight division and then DJ losing in the flyweight division. That does show the world that those top 1 fighters, regardless of whether or not they came from the UFC, can compete with the top level UFC fighters. I mean, even Eddie Alvarez, when he lost to Nastyukhin, he lost the title to Conor. I think he had that weird fight with Poirier that he won or was disqualified, and they had it again, then he lost that fight. And he had the war with Justin Gaethje. But it's like Conor, Poirier, and Justin Gaethje.
Yeah.
Like,
best of the best.
Yeah. Top 5s, and then he goes and gets finished bad by Nastyukhin. So, like, Eddie was still definitely in the global top 10. He might have been in the global top 5 when Nastyukhin beat him. And then same thing, you're dealing with number 1, number 2 ranked DJ getting finished by Moraes in the second round. It just goes to show you, like, 1 has depth. They've got some weird shit going on, and they've got some weird matchmaking.
Not in all their divisions.
Not in all their divisions, but in some of them.
Yeah, some of them.
They've got some damn good talent. And then we can hit that main event with Rotang as well. So Rotang fought this guy called Daniel Williams, and I saw Matt Polino, former guest on the podcast. He's doing a bunch of cornering or a bunch of coaching at the UFC PI, and he shared something that was like their fight records, and it was I think Rotang had 240 something professional Muay Thai bouts. Williams had like 4. And they put them together. And at first I was like, yeah, this is going to be bullshit.
At the top of the card.
But then you watch the fight. The fight was damn good.
Oh yeah, it's a fun fight.
It was super entertaining. I mean, Rotang obviously won. He dropped him in the second round. And if you don't know Rotang, you should, because he's one of the most fun fighters on the planet, regardless of style. And he's the Muay Thai Fighter of the Year last year, which is like their equivalent of like the Heisman or like it's the top. It's like of all the Muay Thai fighters in Thailand, of which there are loads.
Yeah.
He was given the king's honor of being the top Muay Thai fighter, which means he's number 1 of number 1, basically meaning he's pound for pound. And that guy put up a hell of a fight. And I like that they're giving Rotang the international kind of spot at the top of the card, even above DJ and Eddie Alvarez, because I think he deserves it. And the fight was a banger. And Rotang is a crowd-friendly fighter. He's like fucking punches himself in the head, hypes himself up and everything. And he's damn fun to watch.
I think good idea to showcase the 1 kickboxing as well, because the 1 kickboxing is brilliant.
And they do it in small gloves,
yeah.
Right? The Muay Thai there, so it's not the big gloves. You can still get the punches in those little gaps and everything. So I thought it was a fun card. I thought it was fun. I thought it was crazy. It's interesting to see where 1's going to go after this, though.
Well, we know where 1's going.
Oh, yeah. Let's pull up the next one.
Christian Lee's coming out party.
Let's see. I mean, if he beats Nastyukhin...
It is his coming out party.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Janet Todd, who's just coming off of the win over Stamp Fairtex, fighting Leanne Hogstad. I don't know who she is. Obviously, with a 1 female Muay Thai, I'm not super... knowledgeable about that, other than the champions and the people that I've seen fight over the last couple years within 1. Because I mean, can anyone else tell me the female Muay Thai rankings in the? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a tough sell, right? But now that one has integrated these divisions into their fight cards, I am watching, and Janet Todd looked good. Stan Fairtex is obviously right there. The one Muay Thai matchmaking is pretty damn good. The one Muay Thai and kickboxing, those fights are good.
Yeah.
So I am looking forward to that one. And then you got Christian Lee, who's the current champion, not from Singapore, fighting Timothy Nastyukhin, who's the guy who knocked out Eddie Alvarez. He had an injury, which prevented him from having this fight for quite some time. Watch that one closely.
Yeah.
Because with Timothy just beating Eddie Alvarez and finishing him, if Christian can get through him, I mean, he just beat Daggy. He beat Yuri. If he beats Timothy, then I believe he actually cements his status at the top of that division, notwithstanding a potential Eddie Alvarez fight.
Yeah.
But I'm going to watch that one closely. If he gets through him, this guy could be he's already a stud, right? But he could be...
But he could be... I mean, you're taking one UFC, Bellator even, Christian wins this, where's he in the ranking between those organisations? He's...
Right there.
Yeah, right at the
there.
top.
If he wins, he's right there, which will be interesting to see how this plays out. And then I wonder how loyal he is to one, right?
I'd say fairly.
Fairly.
Given all they've done for him, his two sisters fight for them as well.
But if he
His
gets this,
brother-in-law.
but if he gets this title and he's dominant for a few years, I mean, is he going to want to go to the UFC at some point to see?
Yeah.
I mean, because listen, no matter what one does, they're not competing with the UFC anytime soon in terms of the global understanding of who the best fighters in the world are. Right now, they're in the UFC. And it doesn't mean you can't have guys come in and win and lose, right? That's not what I'm saying. Obviously, there are fighters that can beat UFC champions, UFC top 5. One has made that clear, right? But the ones that have come to one have been kind of past their prime and still highly ranked and still able to fight with the best in the world. But they're not but Christian Lee versus Khabib, come on. Khabib's obviously still the number. Dustin Poirier. Come on, Charles Oliveira.
But Christian Lee's significantly younger than
fighters. Which is why I'm saying
yeah.
I mean, even if you throw him in the top 5 right now, I wouldn't like his chances.
No.
But 4 or 5 years from now, he's going to be 27? Then we're talking, right?
Yeah.
So this is why, and I think he can go to the UFC and still be loyal to one, right? It just, he needs to actually, and by the way, Chatri in particular does have connections with the UFC. I mean, Rafael dos Anjos was their champion, and he repped Evolve and all that kind of stuff. So if it boosts his ranking, and he can still wear the Evolve shorts and shit when he's fighting in the UFC. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. If he can defend this title a few more times, beat Eddie Alvarez, get through Nastyukhin, will we eventually see him in the UFC someday?
It actually doesn't hurt one's brand. It promotes one's brand if he goes over to the UFC.
As one's champion and becomes the UFC champion.
Wins, it's actually promoting one even though they're not getting money from it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So yeah, that's what I'm curious about anyway. But I'm going to watch that one. We got a couple good one cards coming in hot. And then what else we got here? Anything else super interesting? Okay.
Not quite as stacked as the last one.
Nakahara. You got Korean fighter. I can shout anyone else. Okay, so I'm pretty much familiar with those top guys on the card. That's about it. But still, those top 2, but in particular that one, definitely worth watching.
Yeah. If you've not seen Christian Lee fight, watch it.
Man, he fights like a bat out of hell.
Best of all, just go on YouTube. Free.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why it's so fun.
Yeah.
You just roll up, watch it, easy. And there's always some good fights on those one cards. So if you're late to one, which most of these people listening to this podcast are not because we're based in Singapore, but if you happen to be catching this from somewhere else, definitely check out One Championship, man. Because if they haven't convinced you with the quality of some of their fighters, with Rodtang, with DJ just getting beat by Adriano Moraes, Nastyukhin beating Eddie Alvarez, Christian Lee fighting Angela Lee, Victoria Lee. There's some damn good fighters, and their kickboxing and Muay Thai is the best in the world, the best in the world. Outside of Thailand, where if you don't speak Thai, you don't stand a chance. But all right, man, let's finish up on
you said the Aljamain.
Yeah. So the kind of gossip of the last couple days is that apparently Aljamain Sterling, who just won by knockout loss to Petr Yan. Yes, I say that again. He won by knockout loss to Petr Yan by an illegal knee, which, to tie it back, is what Demetrius Johnson just lost with. But in one, you're allowed to knee the head of a downed opponent. So he got kneed illegally according to the UFC rules, and then won the bout by disqualification. And apparently, and he made a mistake by saying too that in his message that he has a neck issue. Apparently, he has some herniated disc, and he's had this issue for 10 years. And he's decided now, of all times, to get surgery done on this. And the social media was not very happy that he's decided after that win to now take time to get that surgery. So I think it was the UFC, man. I think it was like the UFC, or maybe it was ESPN MMA. If you put in ESPN MMA, there's a picture of Aljamain talking about getting the surgery on his neck, and the comments were ruthless. It was like, paper champ this, oh, you got... So yeah, find the one with Aljo there. It must be one of the... You might have to go down a little bit because the UFC was just this morning. But I just thought the comments were funny, so I thought we'd pull them up and share. And I don't really begrudge Aljamain for any of this, but it kind of allows you to take the temperature on what the MMA community thinks about him deciding that now of all times he's going to go ahead and get that surgery, even though he lost the fight due to a very controversial loss.
I can't find it.
Yeah, they post a lot, and
there's so much on there.
They just had fights today, so they'll have been very active on it. But if you just see a picture of Aljamain Sterling, I'm pretty sure it's there. Yeah, dude, it was ruthless. So give us just a minute to see if either one of us can find this, because I just wanted to go through the comments, because they were absolutely hilarious.
And then there's fights coming up next weekend as well. Is next weekend Askren?
April 14th, I think. Oh, yeah, so that's next weekend. Are we going to be shills for covering that, is my question?
Oh, let's shill away.
Are we going to be selling out for... All right, so what do you think, Jake? What are your thoughts on that? I think we've talked about it a couple times, and we'll do a post-fight thing as well while I try to find this. We'll do a post-fight thing talking about it, but...
I just think it's fun. I don't actually care what... Well, I do care what happens. I think everybody wants to see, Ben win and win handsomely. And I assume that's what's going to happen. I just think... I watched... Chael Sonnen was talking about it. So
yeah.
This definitely isn't my idea. But he was like, Ben's just going to hang off his neck, drag him round the ring, use his superior cardio, not even actually try and box him properly, just dirty box him. And... Jake Paul's never actually fought a combat athlete before, and he's just going to gas, and then Ben's going to do what he wants.
He's certainly not fought an athlete to that level. Sorry, I'm just trying to check. Maybe it was Ariel Helwani's Instagram that I saw that. So maybe while I'm chatting here, Jake, you can...
Yeah, you give your thoughts, and I'll try and find it.
Okay, sure. So, I mean, I honestly don't know.
I don't know. I'm just...
Which is kind of the intriguing part and kind of the fun part about this fight, is that Ben Askren's pure boxing is so terrible that it gives Jake Paul a chance. Like, here's the thing. If you watch Jake Paul hit the mitts, clearly he looks better than Ben Askren. Like, just hitting the mitts. But the mitts don't fight back,
yeah.
First of all. Second of all, in terms of competition, pure competitive mindset, toughness, grit, determination, competing with high-level people. I mean, Ben Askren wins in spades, right? And at a certain point, those paths will diverge if the fight goes long enough, right? Like, at a certain point, Ben's superior competitive
mindset
and his experience will take over as the fight goes late. But there's so many varying factors, right? First of all, he just had hip surgery like 3 months ago. So, in that sense, Jake Paul's kind of Floyd Mayweathering him a little bit, right?
Yep.
And then on the other hand, Jake Paul hasn't fought anyone, like, except a basketball player and a YouTuber.
Yeah.
So it's easy to look like a stud when you're fighting them.
I think, the psychological war is going to play a huge part in this one. And did you watch any of the press conference?
Oh, Ben owned him. Ben owned him, I thought.
Just fucking shit all over him, sort of
because Ben is a shit talker.
Yeah, does not care.
Yeah, doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, he is a shit talker. And he knows he's competed with, some scary motherfuckers, right? I mean, Ben Askren, and I'm not even talking about MMA.
Yeah.
But he wrestled in the Olympics And he went through murderer's row and cut. Like, that guy has been competing with athletes that are horrifying to, like, the shit that you think about in your nightmares if you want to think about people you want to fight or grapple combat sport of any caliber, right? And Ben Askren is tough, and he's got a chin. He's just, you don't know how his body's going to be, if he's going to be in good shape, what the fight's going to look like, how dirty he's going to be. The longer the fight goes on, the more it favors Askren, I think.
Yeah.
Early on in the first few rounds, it might be a little dicey for him, but it's intriguing, I guess. I mean, they got me. They got me, man. I'll watch it. Hell yeah.
I found the Aljamain.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh, let's go through these comments. So, Aljamain Sterling to have neck surgery. And, yeah, okay. Yeah, let's zoom in on these comments here.
So, Sterling said on his podcast that he's hoping to return later this year, possibly as soon as October if all goes well. First comment.
And read the bottom of the image as well.
Oh, so,
for the listeners.
Aljamain Sterling to have neck surgery. Aljamain Sterling will undergo neck surgery on April 15th to address a medical issue he's dealt with for nearly 10 years. Sterling said physicians have diagnosed him with a herniated disc and will operate on his C6, C7 vertebrae. That probably wasn't helped by getting kneed in the head.
Sure.
Yeah, with the direct impact on his spine. So the MMA...
Actually, on that note, read the second top comment.
Yeah. Well, I'll add the top one. The top one just in capital letters, vacate.
And that's the top most amount of likes.
Jan almost fixed it.
Yeah, fixed his vertebrae. And by the way, that sounds like it's serious. But if he's had it for 10 years and he's fought, he shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have said...
if he'd have just said, oh, my neck's messed up after getting kneed in the head.
Everyone would have been like, oh, yeah, he kneed the fuck out of your
sense.
head. It makes total sense. But then he's like, oh, I've had it for 10 years. And they're like, well, you just fought with it then, and then now you want to vacate? So we'll go through these comments, dude.
I'll find good ones. Holding onto the belt as long as possible.
Mm-hmm. That one, go through all of them, like the top 10. Just keep going.
Paper champ.
And the one above that too, because that one really encapsulates.
I genuinely felt bad for him at the start. Now I really hate the guy. Poor guy.
Yeah.
Funny that after 10 years, he suddenly goes into surgery when Peter wants a rematch. Strip him and let Jan fight for it. Strip him, he's a paper champ anyway. Who cares?
That's the worst one.
That's the
Who
worst
cares?
one. Capital, strip him, holding on to that belt as long as he can. You want to know what though? I'm sure he was on Rogan. And on Rogan he said he didn't have health insurance.
Jesus, really?
Yeah. I'm 95% certain that's what he said. So in a way it does make sense that he might have been dealing with this issue. And then now he's got money and got insurance, was like, oh, better get my spine fixed.
Well, I mean, I think no matter what, he's going to have to fight Petr Yan again.
Yeah.
Like, that's coming. I mean, whether he delays it, however, it's kind of annoying, right? But, I mean, he probably does need the surgery, but it is not helping his public image. That's all I'll say on that. And, it's easy as a person who hasn't fought professionally in the UFC for the last 10 years and wasn't ranked like number 1 or number 2 in the world and didn't just fight Petr Yan. I mean, like, he's not afraid to fight him.
No.
Right? I mean, he's not afraid to fight him. And, it's probably just the opportunity. And maybe he wants his neck to be good for when he defends his belt, it was, it's so easy to just shit talk him. And I get it. Like, my impulse is kind of to do that too. But he's probably going to have that date with Jan, whether it's in 3 months or 6 months or 8 months or 10 months or whenever. He's going to have to deal with that guy. And, maybe his thinking is like, hey, I need to sort this shit out if I want to have a chance.
I want to be 100% to defend my belt.
Yeah. And he didn't look bad. He didn't look great.
He was losing the fight, but he wasn't out of the fight.
Yes, exactly. And he was clearly losing, and it was clearly inferior technically, but that doesn't mean he couldn't have created a scramble, and he also feel like it was clearly the number 1 contender.
Yeah.
I mean, he choked out Corey Sandhagen in like a minute, who was another top prospect, right? So I'll give Aljo his respect, and I do think that he was blatantly illegally kneed, and I think the disqualification was the right call. It was the right call. So he's just in a tough spot, and I definitely feel like he's hearing this, right? Not this exact podcast, but he's getting the vibes of what the internet is saying about his status as champion. And I'm sure he's reading the comments. And if that's not going to motivate him to try to figure this out, I don't know what will. So whatever happens, I don't know if he'll beat Jan. I don't believe he will. But if he needed a reason that he didn't already have to get motivated to figure out a way and put 100% of his effort in, I think the the PR that he's receiving now, having lost, got DQ'd in that fight, and then this stuff, is just the kick in the ass that he needs. Yeah, it's plenty. That's plenty. Or just retire. Retire the champ.
That'd be the move.
I'm the champ. Yeah, oh my God. To be the most hated UFC champion of all time. Just retire now. Quit while you're ahead, baby.
I'm undefeated champ.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll quit, yeah.
Me and Khabib. Only champs to retire without ever losing the belt, baby. In GSP, he'll go out amongst legends. I don't think he'll do it. We're just talking shit. But, yeah. All right, dude. Is there anything else that we thought of that was worth hitting up before we wrap this thing up? I think we did a cool hour and a half.
Yeah, we're doing a session, so all good. Oh, big 50 next time.
Yes, next week is the 50th podcast. Hopefully, maybe Steven and Ron to get on, because a lot of these podcasts, I try to be somewhat coherent and somewhat intelligible and easy to understand and articulate. I know even then I'm like, maybe, but when Ron and Steven come on, this just turns weird.
I'm genuinely already like, oh, that's going to be a session.
Yeah, that is going to be a session. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, then we might have a good one for you. If that sounds like verbal diarrhea that you want no part of, I also get that. And then we'll be back on with more reasonable guests and more reasonable commentary after that one. But we're 50 podcasts deep. It's been a trip. We're trying to still make this thing better and better each week. And thank everybody for listening. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast. And we will see you next week for some shenanigans. This is the Stronghold Podcast. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, everybody listening. Have a good day.